But these markets have different characteristics. The supply requirements are very different. If you go into these markets, it's not a short-term sale where you sell some units and then 6 months later it's gone. Typically, you'll find that you've got to sustain those products for a much longer life cycle. So the supply commitments that you have to give to this market are very different than the supply commitments you have to give to a market that has a very low barrier to entry. So to develop your customer and vendor relationship, you have to be committed to it to the long term as well. The volumes are much lower. Clearly, you're not selling to the masses, you're selling to a few. But again, the profits are much higher. If you look at the time to revenue versus barrier, it's very simple. For these high barrier to entry markets, typically the time to revenue is also much longer, which means you have to have more patience to enter those markets as well. So why is that the case? Clearly, if you're selling something at a premium, it costs a lot to produce that product. It costs a lot for your customer to purchase that product. They're not going to turn it over really fast and say, hey, I'm going to use the next version, or I'm going to obsolete this product. No. Typically, when they buy these products, they use it for a very long time. So if it's in a factory, industrial automation, you'll find out that these products of high barrier are used in production for a really, really long time. Most factories have equipment today that are 20 years old, 30 years old. So you got to be in it for the long term. Same thing with military equipment. Military equipment is deployed and it stays out in the field for a pretty long time. You may upgrade components of it, but the basics are there. In the avionics industry, aircrafts are in use for decades. You may replace some components, you may upgrade, but the fundamental aircraft is in there for decades as well. Same thing with the medical market, which has high barrier to entry markets in it as well. You buy MRI equipment, you buy expensive equipment, they're not going to expense it out in a year, change it. No, they keep it for a very long time. And the same with renewable energy. So these things have a very long commitment that you have to be committed to succeed in it as well. So that brings up something I want to share with you that most people are not aware of, and I'm going to refer to it as the annuity principle. So if you take a look at that first curve over there, it says, well, it takes quite a bit of time to get to revenue in these high-value, high-barrier-to-entry markets. And eventually, and you can take any one of these products, just take an example of an aircraft. So you design into an aircraft, they commit to you. By the time that aircraft goes into production, it's quite a bit of time. And they'll start ramping and building, so it takes a while to get to revenue. But those aircrafts, again, will be in the market for a very long time. That revenue will continue and continue and continue. Now, you apply that annuity principle to multiple products in multiple segments with multiple customers, and what you end up with is kind of a stacking of this annuity on top of each other, which is the curve that you can see over here on your right-hand side, which shows that, in fact, it's a really good market to be in. There's a lot of advantages to be in this market because of this annuity principle, where your profits, although may come slow, or the revenue may come slow in the beginning, but it's a very sustainable business model where the revenue lasts for a very long time, and you just add to it and add to it and add to it and add to it. So getting into these high value and high barrier markets has its benefits as well, and not everybody recognizes that. So what are the success factors to get into this market? Well, number one is you have to innovate in technology. If you are not unique and you're not differentiating yourself, then you're not supporting a solution, or you're not supporting a niche, or you're not supporting a high-value market. You have to innovate in technology. If you have the same capabilities as everybody else, well, is it really a high barrier to entry market? The other key to success here is you have to be committed to this for the long term. So you have to have a multi-year strategic view of how you're going to go about this. It takes an R&D investment, and it takes patience to get into this market as well. But you got to remember that annuity curve, because it will pay off as well. Now, kind of below the line, some other items that will help, but not necessarily a must, is the product breadth. Clearly, the more products you have in your portfolio and the more customers you can go after, that helps as far as accelerating the annuity curve and having a complete solution, because you have to remember, to get into these high value and high barrier markets, you're solving complex problems. So you really got to understand what is that problem you're trying to solve, and the easier you can make it for your customer, the better off you can be as well.